Hi, everybody. This is the Metaphysical Fact Podcast. I'm Sam. This is Kirsten, and we've got a great guest for you today, which Kirsten is going to introduce because she is a fabulous orator.
Thank you, Sam. So we have with us today, we're very privileged to have with us today Isaiah Price. He is an arborist and a metal sculpture artist on the Big Island in Hawaii, and he's been there for nearly 25 years. Powerful spiritual awakenings and visions, uh, which ignited in him, sorry, there's a cat, which ignited in him a deep thirst for true understanding. And he poured through different religions, myths, and sciences across cultures and time, building a knowledge base from the bottom up while working his own logic of universal order from the top down and past forward. At the at the turn of 2013, all these pieces met in the middle and found their own places, and as he describes, the order of creation unfolded itself within him with rapturous simplicity. I like that, rapturous simplicity. Obviously, he's a very good writer. He wrote this. He recognized it as something very old, having dusted itself off within him. Now, at 47, after writing dozens of book forms to try and convey this information to others, he's finally produced a mythopoetic adventure on the back of a lightning horse that flies you from infinity through a universe to the human soul, showing you the step-by-step blueprint of creation, the atlas of heaven that is within us and all around. Now, after that introduction, there we are.
Yes,
Yay!
that was a fabulous introduction.
So welcome, Isaiah.
Thank
Yeah,
you so
welcome.
much. Thank
Your
you
word
very
for
much.
it as well. Sorry, Tom.
Yeah, this is a great privilege and opportunity. Thank you for this opportunity to share and yeah, discuss this amazing adventure and territory we're in the midst of.
Absolutely, because I mean, we really are in the middle of it. And I liked in your book how you started out, you kind of laid out the current climate, especially kind of what was going on. You only touched on it, but Donald and other bits and pieces with Earth changes, which kind of seems to be the big issues at the moment, which are causing chaos and pandemonium really within the collective. And your panacea to that is obviously what you're going to the book. So do you want to just tell us about how it came about and your own journey leading up to it, and then we can kind of dig into it because it's fascinating, isn't it?
Sure. Yes. A lot of this came out in writing this book in the turn of the new year. So right before the Jeffrey Epstein disclosures and things like that. And it was really born in a spirit of joy. And then, yeah, so leading up to that, when I was 18, I encountered an extremely high level spiritual being very briefly. And it was the experience of being transparent to this person, into the spirit within them. It was definitely the Christ spirit within them. I was, to kind of shorten it down, I was held in a field of perfect consciousness and love, but I was exposed to all my own shortcomings, all the petty thoughts and emotions that I was just kind of coming in and out of me as egos would do, and just realizing, no, I'm not just this tower of consciousness myself. I'm affecting everybody around me. So it blasted my ego open, and I judged myself in that. And I was, they left until when I could no longer take the exposure anymore. So after that, I was having just dreams and visions of going to different planets, working with other civilizations, both past and future, and just all this remembrance that was coming up in me. And I had always been, I loved science in school, fascinated with religions. Grew up kind of mild Christian, I would say, not really super devout, but my parents would take me to different churches, to the different denominations. So that's kind of was my foundational step in entering into religion. So just over the years, reading through Hinduism, reading through Islam, reading through the structure of the Egyptian pantheon and how they understood things, reading through Judaic mysticism and what are called cosmogonies, which are the stories of mythos. It's how the universe came into being by all these different cultural clothings versus cosmology, which is how we explain it currently scientifically. And that gets updated as we go, and lots of different discoveries in that are challenging current paradigms. So that was my journey on and off for a number of years. So I would consume as much as I could stand, and then I have to put it down for several months to a year sometimes. And then just I kept working on it, and literally the turn of 2013, as I'm reading different things, I collected enough of the different hierarchies of understanding and enough pieces of information, and just in letting it go and coming back to it, letting them find their own places as I describe it. They would just slightly change shape, and then all of a sudden it all just gelled together, and it was so simple and so accountable for everything and all the questions I had been asking. It answered everything, and also became this like, now what do I do with it? So yeah, I was enraptured for a good 3 months. It's like, this is the purpose of my life this time. This is what I'm supposed to share. And of course, it was way too hot of water for most people to metabolize at that time. So since then, there's been a process of cooling down, of getting my own self clear and out of the way of this, at the same time retaining the joy that I was born in. So yeah, since then, finding different languages to explain this in real simple things that we all have experience of as humans on this planet. And so finally, yeah, finally in writing this book and weaving all those things together and just keeping it light, it's like these are deep pools of culture and information, the sciences, quantum physics, biblical translations. These take decades of dedicated study to truly, or at least a formal education, which I don't have. I'm relatively unlettered in the colleges, graduated high school. And so it's both having to build my own paradigm and destroy it and create it, but also borrow from all the others that I can find. So I think where I was landing this on, that the book is like a skip over all these pools and showing you the borders of them and kind of where they connect. And I don't really dive super deep into them, but just enough to show you, or to try to show you how they're all connected, and especially underneath the level of narrative, because we use words to describe these things, but it's in the book, I say these are just maps. They are approximations of this larger territory that we're a part of, that is all form and force and energy fields and things like that. And these words barely get to describe it. And so that's kind of what I'm efforting in the book, is to give you a feel for these things underneath whatever level of narrative that you have collected to understand the world in.
Yeah, you've done an amazing job at making the ineffable affable. I've digested a bit your book. I'll be honest, I'm not the most. I mean, I'm not saying I'm unintelligent, but you can really tell that you've put the time and the effort into this. And the thing that fascinates me, I mean, I've got several questions, so I'm going to just fire them at you. But the thing that fascinates me is that you had this meeting with these. Was it a being or beings? Did you say?
It was a being. He looked just like a regular homeless man. In fact, when it was after I had just gotten myself kicked out of the Navy, I was going to be a nuclear technician on their submarines, and when I
Wow.
got to Great Lakes, Illinois boot camp, this was before I even knew what reading energy was, and I could tell that all the officers had nothing open above their third eye, and I just soon realized I would be able to teach myself far more than I would be able to experience in this domain because there's nothing above a certain level. And so, yeah, I got myself kicked out real soon, and glad I did, because it was an 8-year contract, and I would be under the ocean for I don't know how many months at a time, no air or no greenery, no nature, no thank you. And since then, my work in the trees has actually helped me understand this language, and that's what I really credit um, my ability of understanding this thing two is my work in the trees. It's all a dance of form and force. There's no words, there's no beliefs, there's no story up there. There's just paying very, very close attention to a living dance that is all around.
Yes, I love that. And and I love what you were saying about. Go on, Kirsten. Sorry, do you want to say something?
Oh no, I was just agreeing with you. I love that. That's amazing, and I think that's a perfect description of, and it really speaks of presence in the moment and where you find yourself. It's beautiful. What a beautiful description.
Thank
Go
you.
ahead, Seth.
Yes, it is a very intimate, very present dance, because if you don't pay attention, the consequences could be fatal. So I have a lot of motivation to pay close attention.
You seem like you're really on a specific spiritual path, Isaiah.
Yes.
The whole choreography, going back to the dance of your life, because that's what I'm going to call it, seems to be ebbing and flowing in perfect symmetry and harmony with a larger purpose. Would you agree with that?
Yes, I've definitely, what I describe, I found my role or job in this current time stream and what is going on. So in my first discovery, it was metabolized as identity, but my sense of self has expanded beyond that, but still taking the job or the role very seriously and fulfilling it. But it's also always keeping my sense of self in the ability to keep growing. That I'm not even though I'm working on fulfilling the role that was basically unfolded in me and handed to me. It's always to keep flexible and to keep growing, because when that is done, it's going to be something else, and I'm going to be growing into that. So yes, I feel very succinct in that job description, if you will, but also to keep it flexible, because I'm still a kid playing around in this great creative experience.
Yeah, exactly. And I loved what you were saying as well about the joy, like bringing the joy in, and because for me, my own personal mission is to come and to embody that and to kind of spread that around, because it's in the book you talk about basically that I call the universe is just one big massive orgasm of God, because just love in motion, isn't it? And you kind of touched on that.
Yes.
And from that comes this joyful, ecstatic state. And I'd really love for you to kind of dig deeper into some of the topics and things that are in the book, if you want to go for it.
Yes. So what I do with the book, and where I'd like to bring the audience, and where I started with all of this, is before a beginning. So this gets into what was before the Big Bang, if you're cosmologically oriented, or what was God doing before creation, and into the questions of what actually is God. Is it just a disembodied spirit? Is it just a mind that thinks the perfect thoughts and creates? And I sat with a lot of that, but what I came to was this infinite field. And this would be, if God is the highest possible state, then what is the highest possible state? And it would be an infinite field. It's got no outer border, and it fills all available space to the highest energy density, so that it is the essence of unification, of oneness. There's no pattern expressed in mythological terms. It would be a virgin ocean because no creation or procreation has happened within it. And I found this idea throughout different mythos. It's called the cosmic ocean, cosmogony. Like Egypt has this idea. Hinduism has this idea of Vishnu resting on the infinite serpent, which is on this infinite ocean of immortality. And even in Judaic mysticism, they have what is called the Ein Sof Or, which is the infinite light of God. So I settled on starting with this base state of an ocean of light that has no edge. And this would be the eternal body of the infinite force, what we would call God. And I sat and kind of wrestled with this for a while, so because there's no room for anything else to exist right now. And what needs to happen for space to be made? And so in just modeling this, and this type of physics modeling is what I use in the trees to move branches around. I'm modeling its mass and motion. The tree is my body when I'm in it and having to swing things around and get it away. So the basic logic, the first unfolding, the first shape that comes out of this, of finite order from the infinite, is that it has to move outward to make a bubble, a relative space that's been voided of this omnipresent, overpowering, just pure being that occupies all space, so that no other individual being could exist unless it makes space for it. And how does it do that? Long story short, it self-expresses in existence. It speaks its name, I am. It is the only thing there is to express, and the only thing necessary to express. So that is a vibration that moves through it. And the mechanics of it would be acoustic cavitation, which is a vibration in a medium that suddenly creates a void bubble, a stable vacuum bubble. And we've done this in scientific experiments. You can look it up online. Acoustic cavitation and sonoluminescence will bring that up.
Okay.
So an equal opposite reaction, it expands out the periphery. And again, this equality brings it to the center of that space as well. And now we get the first basic geometry of order from the infinite. And it's not just a creation. It's not just something separate. It's because it's self-expressed, its own existence. I am. That word gets fulfilled and makes an I am. And that is the individuation of itself in the center of this new space, which is now the universe, and what would be called mythologically the Son of God, the uniquely begotten one in the center of that space, as its orderer, as its king in the center of a kingdom. So this is where the geometry, this pure equal opposite reaction and self-expression, gets turned into narrative and mythos that is much more human level, that we can convey through time and downstream to each other. But the geometry remains. You'll find what's called the circumpunct. It's one of the oldest symbols of what's called the monad in Gnosticism. It's alchemical gold in alchemy. A very old, very common symbol, the circled dot. And one of my favorite attributions I found of this is actually Boy Scouts. It's a part of a trail sign. So if you're walking down a trail and you find this carved into something or whatever, its meaning is that I've gone back home the way that I came. I just thought that was just really cool.
And just to stop you there, because this is all fascinating. But so I can conceptualize this, because the idea that I've got of the separation, you know, the monad splitting and becoming the I am, and then descending into matter, obviously, if we talk about from a Gnostic point of view, it's a descent and then an ascent again, and it's to know yourself, isn't it? And that's why this is one of the main kind of, what's the word, but I'm having a bit of a brain fart, but it's one of the main things that we look in at lots of different traditions, isn't it? It's like, know thyself. And how do you know yourself? In opposition to another. And then obviously the splitting, like you said, it's creating two separate things in its own individually, right, which is still wholeness. but it's also separation from the main, isn't it? So it's trying to get your head around that, I suppose.
Yes, it is a differentiation. So in the total model, the self-expression of this infinite one, that ocean of being, procreates infinite ones. And this gets into a multiverse model with projective geometry. I call it a polyverse because it's more like a crystalline lattice. It's like a consciousness generator processor rather than just some random universes popping up here and there or whatever. It has very specific predictions on like the dark energy that we measure here. But this goes back to what you were saying earlier. As a lovemaking, it expressed its own existence through its own body. So there is a patterning aspect, or what we would call the father aspect. And that father is expressing its own existence of the whole through its own substance, which is the mother. So
is that where you sorry, just to cut your foot, is that where you think like the fractalized nature, like we talk about the above and the below, the within and the without, it starts from a seed point, doesn't it, and then it fractals out? Do you think that's because it comes from this father archetype and the geometry is birthed from that, so therefore it extends outwards?
Yes, except that it would be, you start with the infinite ocean, and then when it patterns through itself, you get a projecting side of infinity and a receiving side of infinity.
Okay.
And so it's like a sandwich of unleavened bread opening up, and in that opening, this flat planar divide, which would be the first division of the mythological waters, you have the above, which would be the patterning side of infinity projecting into the receiving side of infinity, and between are infinite procreations, and those would be the children of God. They're also universes. I think they're synonymous with the souls. We are each one of those procreations, and we are all projecting together into another one for accelerated and combined learning. So we are one, we come from one, but we are individuations that specialize in our own internal development and experience.
Okay. So, I mean, the thing is, we're perceiving reality, aren't we, as a singular point right now, as our consciousness is expressed, and it's kind of grappling with that idea that we're the one and we're the all at the same time, and it's trying to marry that. And the way that I go into and trying, and obviously I'm not a scientist and I'm not, a specific esoteric explorer, but the way that I kind of consider that when we talk about the London scat, you were talking about the infinity symbol and the center being, it's just the 0 point, isn't it? It's like the birth of all creation, and it's within every single cell, every atom, everything. It's the 0 point. So it's like an infinite, and then we can go to kind of like holographic universe theory, where you've got that same point expressed as physical matter that we can see, but it contains all the hologram. So one individual part contains the whole.
Yes. So for you and your audience, my avatar is the fully expanded map. It's kind of at a 2D, 3D superposition. You'll see the star of the Merkaba. It kind of looks like a Star of David, but it has 8 points, not 6. And in 2D, that makes a square star. It has 8 external points. So that would be our mind that fills and occupies every part of our being. And we can isolate it in our feelings, our mind, our will, past, future, whatever. And that has a counterpart outside of us that actually interpenetrates us. So this is where the holographic aspect comes in. We are overlaid of the same geometry of this field that is everywhere in the universe. It represents God's omnipresence. It would be called the breath of the compassionate one, the Holy Spirit that is everywhere, the most subtle of witnesses, that is the still small voice inside of at the very center of our souls. So that 0 point you're talking about, I would call the singularity point, which is not a 0. It is pure oneness and wholeness, and that is at the very center of our soul. That is like the individuation. That is why and how we are the children of God, because that is within us as the original one procreated, and that is also a singular being in the center of the universe. which I believe in my own experience and all the logic and rationality I brought to this, that is who we call Jesus. It's called by a different name at that time, but that is the name that we are familiar with, that level of perfect being. And the mythos is great. The sinless one, sin comes from is an archery term. It means to miss the target. And when you hit the center of the bullseye, that's sinlessness. You get to pass on to the next obstacle course, and it's the same symbol. You've got the circle with the dot in the center. And so these things just keep looping around to these specific geometries, and then what that means as far as meditation, turning into the center of yourself, and that would be the know thyself aspect. And when you
Yeah.
reach that, there is a harmonization across levels. This would be called sympathetic resonance. So, like if you have a tiny little E string and you pluck that, it will vibrate anything else that is tuned to the E frequency, any other strings or whatever. So similarly, as we reach wholeness within ourselves, we reach sympathetic resonance with this great harmony of universal distribution of these fields around us. And then there's cross communication between the two.
Yeah, and I love that because if you look at sound therapy or whatever, they talk about sympathetic resonance, which explains really well. But then when we look at it on like a purely energetic level, because we don't always hear all vibration, do we? We don't always, we don't always put it out into like the heart. Basically, is what I'm getting at. So your heart is the heart field, isn't it? And that is the field that's within each of us that projects that out. And you were talking about this wholeness, which I loved. And the more whole and the more healed and the more in unity that we come back together within ourselves, which is like in alignment with that kind of the God template, isn't it? The more we're projecting that out, and then we form resonance with the people around us, and that's how we shift the vibration to move back into that.
Yes. Part of the journey I see of this, there's the belief of what we think to be true, and that's what we're seeking. Is this true? Is that true? Oh, okay, this works, and this makes sense. And then, for my own definition, what I call faith is is authored. It's an experience of the truth that confirms your belief, or says, no, that's not quite how it is. It's a little bit different. And so then there's a sense of objectivity. Oh, okay. This is ringing true, so I can follow it. And there's a third step, which is what you were talking about. It's fruition. It is becoming an instrument of that harmony, so that truth and the life and all that flows through you, and waters the creation. It's the joy that flows through you. It's the wind of spirit that lifts your wings. All of that. So there is a transformative process in this spiritual journey. And that last one, fruition, is you get to become an instrument of truth, and you finally get to play.
Yeah, exactly. Because it's a co-creation, isn't it? And that's the whole point of it. And truth, my whole little like thing that I say is, I don't even know I got this. It's a bit of gnosis. So I see it as like a bit of a triangle. So I've got God, truth, and love in a triangle, and it's all the same. And the center of the triangle is like the logos, basically. Whether that's right or not, I don't know. It's my own little right interpretation on that. But there's no difference between them. It's just a degree of separation, isn't it? Really.
Well, like a degree of differentiation for the sake of experience and for the sake of progeny. Because it's not just a cycle. It's not just it's a developmental process. So when in this Atlas of Heaven, you could think of the original infinite ocean of light. When it unfolds its properties inside a bubble in this universe, those are like the colors of the rainbow, now in motion and flowing inside the universe. Again, it makes a very specific geometric arrangement, which accounts for how many types of atoms there are in the universe. There are 6 types. There's 3 densities of what we call matter, which has a positive nucleus, and there are 3 densities of antimatter, which has a negative nucleus. And those are arranged on opposite sides of the universe, and the whole thing is a growing organism. It's both a symphony that differentiates at first, and then those regions populate with beings and information, and then as those fields continue to grow, they'll recombine. And so now beings who used to be in different separate realms with different information then get to share the same realm, and there's resolutions throughout time as that goes. So that would be the reason for all prophecy and what is coming in our future as the universe reaches greater and greater levels of wholeness to itself, as it combines the differentiation
Yeah.
that
And,
populate
and
into,
complex.
yes.
Yeah, the more complex it gets. And like, when you were saying that, I was kind of getting this image of kind of like when you start out and you get an atom, and then you get a bit more, you get molecules, and then you get like them coming together to form an organ within a body, and then complex systems, and it becomes more and more, complicated. And that's kind of how I was visualizing it as you were describing it.
Yeah, similarly, and what just came to me as you were talking about that is like we're building this grand symphony, but at first the different types of instruments are separated. So the drum section is practicing together, and they're kind of they're sharing information and getting in rhythm. Then you've got the string section, and they're in separate rooms. They can't hear each other at first. And then as those sections, the wind section and all of these get good and get as populated as they can, then the walls of the room start to come down, and then you start being able to play together. And there's a shift, there's some adjustment, but eventually,
is that the coherence though? Is that through coherence that you were talking about, the sympathetic resonance?
That part would more be along the lines of the process that the whole universe is going through and taking us along with it. So it has its own growth process. So like a bird laying an egg, that egg is developing in its own right, and we're like inside the heart of the baby bird that is about to be born. And then all the organs start working together, and there are other beings that are parts of those other organs. And so yes, we want to be available and doing whatever our own work is, and then as the universal, you could call them realm borders, that will come down, and we'll be interacting with the other spirits, astral realm entities, angelic entities, other entities that, yeah, we'll see how it goes. But that's the basic idea, that the universe has its own growth function, and we're along for that ride, and we're being invited to this greater interaction with other intelligences. And I think that's what we're seeing with the UAPs, and the plasma balls, interdimensionals. And from my own astral travels, there are many different sentient species out there of all different levels, and some of them are working together, and there are ones that are parasitic and or predatory. That's part of the navigation. It's part of the choice that some choose to go down that path and experience it all the way to its end and have to restart all over again as consciousnesses. So it is definitely a learning process, but on the whole, the universe is much greater interaction and harmony and abundance of experience in life for each of its individuals.
Yeah, it's beautifully put. Kirsten, do you have anything that you want to say, Mother? I feel like I'm dominating this conversation a little bit.
Actually, it's good because my internet is popping in and out, and I'm actually not even getting the whole conversation. So it's been a bit difficult.
Oh, I'm so
because
sorry.
it's very complex. But yeah.
Yeah, she's having a bit of a hard time. We seem to be against it at the moment, don't we, Isaiah, with the technology? Go on.
Shoots, yes. Yeah, that's going to go in and out.
It's such a beautiful, yeah.
Go ahead while you're on. We can hear you now.
No, I'm okay, good. No, I was just saying I'm amazed because it's such a beautiful way to pull it all together, because I've read a lot of these texts, and I have a really difficult time even conceiving what they're talking about. And I love the way that you've put it all together and made it so much more like we can lay this out and we can see it now in a way that perhaps is not so easy when we look at the texts themselves. So yeah.
I mean, beautifully put, Kirsten. I mean, I absolutely agree. What I am interested in a little bit more is that you talked about your astral travels and things that you've kind of seen in that nature. Would you be able to talk a bit more specifically about different kind of realms and things that you've experienced?
Sure. So, let's see here. On my own astral travels, they have been mostly local experiences. My biggest realm transfer experience, while I was I'm not that practiced anymore. I'm more in lucid type dreaming. I need to practice again. It's called the wild technique, which is being able to go to a fully lucid astral travel state from the waking state, and it involves breathing slower than what your autonomic nervous system would take over. But
Oh,
yes, yeah. So
can you
basically,
talk us through that a little bit? Oh, sorry, go on.
yeah, basically your consciousness is invading the space of your subconscious when you are consciously breathing slower than what your autonomic nervous system would take over doing when you do go to sleep. So when I was really good at this is probably when I was 26, 27, and this was a profound experience because it dropped through many different realms all at the same time. I was practicing passing through things like as a spirit. So I would be able to pass through the wall and just like put my hand through glass like it was molasses. And I found out that the more I thought about having to pass through this wall, the more viscous and more taffy-like it was. But if I placed my mind on the other side and just I'm walking into that field that's on the other side of the wall, it was like passing through smoke. So it's interesting, whatever I concentrated on made it more concretized and more physical-ish in that experience. So
Yeah.
what I did was I walked out or just floated out to the grass field out there, and I was wondering, what if I passed through the earth? And it just an idea that came to me to experience with. So I did a trust fall. So I was just standing on the surface of the earth in my spiritual body, and I just fell over backwards and passed right through the surface of the planet. And at first, it's kind of scary because you can't see anything, and I'm feeling just wind passing through my body as I fall, and I'm just falling and falling. And finally, when I relaxed into that, I started passing through what I believe is the lower astral. It's I think where we dream together and make different. It's kind of the subconscious realm that we collectively both produce and experience together. And so I'm passing through different people's dreams and this situation, that situation, and just falling like a rock. And it took me a couple times because I'd want to pay attention, I'd look around, and then I get drawn into a dream. So maybe the third time that I'd popped out of body and trust falled through the surface of the earth, I closed my eyes a little more and just looked straight down as I was falling. And all of a sudden, I passed out of that realm, which is like a cloudy realm. And now I'm falling through clear space. And it looks like outer space. There's stars that I'm passing by, and it's much cleaner feeling. The wind passing through me felt very clean. And then I start falling faster. And now I'm passing galaxies. And now I'm passing clusters of galaxies, like almost like I'm falling backwards in time towards the core of this planet. And then I start to get close enough to the core, and it looks like this big cloud of cotton candy, these beautiful colors and these streams of gold every once in a while just fire out from the cloud across the cosmos. And I relax more as I'm falling towards it, and then I fall into its cloud. And it's so, oh my God, just joyful and wonderful. It's like of the best parts of everybody's dreams that are collecting together around this thing. And I kept falling through it. It took me a couple times to get through that one as well, because I just wanted to stay there. And it was so comfortable, like a blanket of God's love, if you will. But eventually I kept going. I kept being drawn toward the very center. And about the fifth or sixth time, I popped through the bottom of that cloud, and the light was unbelievably brilliant. It knocked me completely out of that state. because it was just too bright to metabolize. And this took me another couple of times of repeating the whole process, falling through the surface, falling through the astral realm, falling through space, and all this. And what I came to had to practice, I had to adopt the eyes of the Buddha. I had to go half-lidded and not be so receptive that the light actually knocked me out of the experience. I just had to relax and no, this is all perfectly normal. This is all just the sublime reality that we're a part of. It's not causing such a big reaction inside of me, is what I'm trying to say. And so when I really did that, I could see the core illuminating everything from the inside out. And this is the neat part. It became a letter. And it was a golden ball, and it turned, think of like a crossword puzzle, like a three-dimensional crossword puzzle, and it became the letter G. I could see it on the side, and as it's turning towards me, that G extends behind itself and then turns a full word that I could read, and it said Genesis.
Wow.
And then it kept turning, and as soon as the S came into view, two more Genesises popped out of the E's, like a tessellating crossword puzzle that just kept growing. And it soon just became Genesis, and it filled the entire space. It kept going, and then all of a sudden, I'm immersed in it, and that was basically the end of the experience. And so that was, for me, when I finally woke up, it felt like this is funny, but the whole spiritual biological process or lens on this, I felt like I was a sperm that dropped into the planetary egg that finally was accepted past the barriers, and then I combined with it and we created life together. And that was the Genesis explosion from the inside out.
That's amazing.
Thank you. And the neat thing was, it dovetails with a lot of, let's see, this is the Greek, I believe, ideas of the afterlife. So for them, everything, all of the afterlife, even the heavenly realms, are the underworld. They're below ground. And so like this same version of where we might have been motivated to, like in the astral realm, fly off into space and go outward and upward into what we think is some other grander realm or experience. For me, it was all inside. It was inverted. And so falling down, I fell through the darker realms, fell through creation, and then finally into these inner-nested realms that were very heavy experiences. So, and I think that goes right back to knowing ourselves, that yes, there are great beings outside of us, but where we connect with that, where we truly find that wholeness that allows us to explore the external fully, is within us. And finding and making that wholeness within ourselves, that becomes our spaceship. And now we can move more so in the external co-creative experience rather than seeking outwards all the time.
Yeah.
Very important conversion.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, when you think about, we start to talk about it. So like ascension, we talk about ascension, people think of it as a direction, but really it's an expansion of consciousness. But the expansion of consciousness is actually going inside. So it's expanding out as you go in. Does that make sense? I don't kind of have the terminology for it. But it's kind of, it's not, we're not going anywhere. We're just going deeper and deeper and deeper into that center point, aren't we? And the deeper you go, the wider you get, basically. It's a conception, isn't it?
Yes, it's like that. It's like if we're spiritual material, that contraction or concentration into the center of ourselves is like almost like a nuclear fusion reaction. We become a star, and then that light reaches out so much further and interacts with the other light that's outside of us. So yeah, like you're saying, as we concentrate inward, as we become a whole being within ourselves, our auric reach and interaction with the other auras of beings in the universe itself reaches far much out further, rather than just our point of awareness trying to travel outwards and reach these things.
Yeah, brilliant, absolutely brilliant. And it makes me think about kind of these coherence. We talk about the human collective consciousness, and how it kind of overlaps. I mean, what are your thoughts on that? Like, where do these three consciousness kind of arise? Because you talk about the auric field expanding out, and we think about kind of the collective consciousness that we're all dialed into. You can't see it, but we know it's there. We all have these shared experiences and shared information. And then we talk about this kind of like nuclear fusion, which is like the star within us. And actually, what everything is, it's just made of light, isn't it? And light is information. So it's just the generation of information, which is then obviously linking to everybody else, which is forming this joint collective between us that we've all got access to.
Yes. Yes. Well, I'm sorry, what was the question that you had in that?
I don't know, I've lost it. I was just getting excited. Sorry, Ivy.
Yeah.
Just your thoughts on like what you actually think the collective consciousness is really, and your thoughts on like consciousness groupings and how that kind of comes about. And I kind of answered my own question, sort of.
Yes. So my my start with that would be on the polyversal level. So there are layers upon layers of universes that, and each layer is one universe high and infinite along the horizontal, and then it just keeps stacking those like honeycomb stacks. So
Yeah.
there are universes that are born before us that are far more developed. And you could think of each universe as a developing embryo of the original God consciousness. And then there are universes that are born way after us that are less developed. And each is a consciousness that can project into, not necessarily by choice, but I think is guided by the whole Gestalt, by the Mother, Father, God aspect, that each can project into another universe. So we are either at different levels, kind of close to different levels. Some are way more advanced, but we're all in this particular one to help accelerate each other. Like we're a fractal example of the daisy chain of being. So we are helping accelerate groups within this universe that are trying to move up or move forward in both this larger polyversal great generator of experience and within themselves. And some aren't ready. Some are trying to stay where they're at. Some are actively regressing and trying to go backwards. So I think what we're doing as a whole is being able to accelerate the possibility of choices at this moment, at this time on this planet, because she and the sun are doing a generative dance as well. And they've gone through great cycles that aren't just, they're not just clockwork. Again, it all goes back to this sense of conscious quantum development. These are living organisms, and they are growing and reaching greater emergent expressions together. And so both there's a larger cycle from the galaxy, the galactic current sheet, which is like a ripple that passes over us, affecting the sun and the earth.
Does that come from the central sun? Because it comes out, doesn't it? Have I got that right?
Repeat that, please.
Sorry, does the galactic current sheet, does that ripple out from the central sun? Because it's like a big thick dust cloud, isn't it?
Yes, that's how I understand it. That it is a division between the north and south magnetic field hemispheres of the galaxy. And because the galaxy is spinning, it's not a flat sheet out here. It's a big rippling wave that has a very specific periodicity. And as it passes over us, we would be in the south hemisphere, and then the neutral zone passes over us, then we'd be in the north hemisphere. But it's not like we're rising up and down. It's this wavefront, like a sine wave that's moving sideways over us. And then that would affect the Earth as we enter the sun and the Earth as we enter the null zone between those fields. We're no longer like locked into the overarching magnetic expression of the environment. So we would be more exposed to universal fields when the galactic field, when its strength comes down to a neutral zone. And then we would have a reordering of both the sun and the earth and all the people on the earth and what realms we're experiencing. I think that event would be, I think mythologically would be called the Day of the Lord. It would be called Ragnarok in the Norse. It would be called the Fresho Careti in the Zoroastrian. So it's basically when we are exposed to the larger universal fields, and there's a great reordering happens, and it is an energetic event primarily. So all of us who are working to cohere into a greater spiritual organism, I like that we're trying to make the heart field or the heart organ of this spiritual embryo we're working on developing. That will be the dominant creative factor of how the earth reorders herself. And some
Okay.
others will experience destruction. And from what I've been shown in my own visions, and this is before I developed any of this information, there is a planting of a new spiritual city, a incredible, beautiful, this perfect giant city made of like gold and precious gems and things like that. This thing is like universal circuitry in the physical that emits its own power and light and everything. Whether that's symbolic of the people that come together or it actually happens on the planet, that's what I'm looking forward to. We'll see. But that would be, I believe the Hopi don't describe something like that, but they describe these events as a progressive cycle. We've gone through 4 ages of the sun before that have gone through 4 different elemental expressions, and we're coming up upon the age of the 5th sun, which is the spiritual expression of what we're doing here.
Beautiful put. Well done. Because there's so many moving parts there that you're putting together to kind of make the bigger picture, which is just amazing. I do want to touch on the whole idea of, the Ragnarok, end of times, revelation, all that kind of stuff. And what you actually think that really means, because I think there's this idea, that's been floating around in spiritual circles for quite a long time that there's been a split. And a lot of people kind of believe that there's already been a split, and it's to do with timelines. And that one set of people would experience a higher timeline, and one set of people would experience a lower timeline. What's your kind of take on that?
Yes. So certainly in the honoring of free will and the direction of experience that both individuals and groups are aiming themselves for whatever reason, whether it's conscious or unconscious. One metaphor that's come to me that feels very close is a dimensional mitosis, like a cellular mitosis. In other words, we are given experiences in this realm together, and we're making choices of the direction we want to travel with that information. And some, yes, this is awesome. I want more life. I want more experience. I'm doing my best to heal from my own errors and navigate more skillfully, and others aren't. And whether it's some that are actively trying to take advantage of others, as we've been exposed to, or there are those that are just contracting out of trauma that need more of a helping hand, more of a hopeful and evidential vision for them to open up to more life. Say, okay, yeah, I'll give it another go, kind of thing. There will be and is this larger collective decision that we're all making. And I think this gets back to biblical language of when the gospel, or just the knowledge of the good news that we are taken care of, we do have a shepherd, we are within a ordered and perfect co-creation, that will open up to the next stage of collective experience and co-creation for those that choose that. And so that choice needs to happen worldwide. And I think that's why it is written, like, nobody knows the day or the hour. Only God the Father knows when that's going to happen, because a lot of it is to do with what information we are making decisions on. This is part of what I feel is part of my job and role, is to help spread this this understanding and this hope and this imperfect symphony we're a part of, and the wealth that is buried inside of you just waiting to be born. And so we are both riding on a wave, and we're making the wave as we go. Like I said before, there is a greater process that the universe, the galaxy, the sun, and the earth are all going through as organic beings on the spiritual psychic level that are wanting to expand and to grow into their greater expressions. And so we're here at this time along for that ride. And so the word apocalypse doesn't mean destruction. It means to reveal the truth. In the Bible, it's the apocalypse of Jesus the Christ. And when the truth it does get revealed, it's only natural that all lies, all falseness falls away by their own lack of substance. And so that's what I see and believe is coming as we become more coherent, as we are able to share a vision that is not just a belief, but it's like, no, I understand this. I can experience this. I can share and grow this. Like what I'm saying in my book is like, don't believe me. Take this and use it, and maybe you will see greater things than I have, because I'm still working on this map, which is a blueprint. I'm not the finished carpenter. I'm getting the raw wood as the arborist kind of idea. So yeah, when thinking about the end of the world, it's the end of all the limited and lying systems that take advantage of our lack of consciousness. We've been lied to over generations and things like that, but we are waking up, and waking up hard and quickly. So there's a scramble of those systems that are trying to extract more energy out of us, and they're unable to. And to a certain point, they will be completely transparent and exposed and lose all their power. And as that happens, the experience of the people that are wanting to move on to the next great stage of our adventure is just going to take completely over, because that is exactly what the Earth wants. That's what the sun wants. That's what the galaxy wants. That's what the universe wants. That's what the God beyond wants. It is the thrust of the entire purpose of this great infinite creation we are part of. So
Yeah, I love that. And I was just thinking, you were talking about the revelation of like the Holy Spirit or whatever, which is like you said, this little underpinning force which connects everything. So really, is it revelation of truth of what we really are?
Yes, I believe that's exactly what it is, and that many of our beliefs are, excuse me, are parallels with it and overlays with it, and then it just becomes stronger when you understand it and you're actually able to work it as your own psychic vehicle inside of yourself. I'm working on a second book that's going to describe the yoga of consciousness, which is different mind positions or mind shapes that describe or that parallel along with these very specific geometries of the Atlas of Heaven. And real quick, without diving into too much detail, I'd like to describe for you and the audience these specific geometries, because there's 10 of them
Yes.
that unfold. So in a single universe, there's an equal opposite reaction of the original infinite self-expression. So the original infinite, like its quantum equality with itself, it is all around itself equally. It's at the center of itself everywhere. And that field is at 100% energy density, so that nothing else can exist.
Yeah.
So there's actually a triple contraction to make the space, ordered space, for anything else to exist. So the first tier or level of this unfoldment, there's 4 of them. The first one is the Godhead. It moves outward to form a periphery, and that would be our border back to the infinite, the Father, Mother, God. It contracts to the very center, which would be the uniquely begotten Son of God, the King of Kings, the Shepherd of all souls, has many names throughout many different traditions. And then there's a downward contraction to the subtlest, most gentle field of consciousness that interpenetrates everything. It's not completely overwhelming, but it is omnipresent, both within us and all around us. And that's what King David described as the where can I flee from your spirit, O Lord? If I ascend to heaven, there you are. If I make my bed in hell, lo, thou art there. Your consciousness is inescapable in a universe. So that's the first tier. The circle, the dot, and the square star. That's the trinity of the Godhead expression that unfolds from the infinite unity that is prior to that. Second tier, real easy. It's an electromagnetic field. It is a column of concentrated mobile light that's moving straight down. You can call it the straight and narrow path. I think it's the tunnel of light that souls see and are pulled into once they drop the body. And so that's in my avatar, that's the purple object. There's a vertical column pillar, and then it unfolds and wraps up the inside of the sphere and comes back to the polar dive. So you've got your electric beam and you've got your magnetic arcing all around.
Mm.
That's the second tier. Third tier, even easier. It's a disc spun off that axis right around the central dot. So in mythological terms, that disc divides, again, the above from the below. It divides the waters of the universe into an upper hemisphere and a lower hemisphere. I believe this would be the surface of the Sea of Glass in John's visions. In the Genesis account in the Bible, it would be the firmament that divides the waters above from the waters below. And those waters are the different types, the two different types of atoms that creation is expressed in. So below the disk, that space, the central nucleus of the universe is positive to that lower space, and the periphery is relatively negative, and that relationship is inverse on the top. The nucleus is negative, the periphery is positive to it. So that's where you get the different atomic expressions in those different hemispheres: matter below, antimatter above. In mythological terms, the earths or the earthly creations below and the heavenly creations above.
It kind of reminds me of the yin yang, but in a disc. I don't know why that just popped into my head.
Yes, in 3D. In fact, looking down to the top, there is it's great. You're keying in on the very next and last tier, tier 4, which that disc divides the tier 2 Pyrrhula torus into its 4 phases of motion.
Okay.
And those phases, dropping down from the top to the center, is the earth phase. It's paired with the water phase that expands out from the center to the bottom, and that expands out to the equator, which is the air phase, and the contraction of that is the fire phase to the top. And so those are 4 phases. They are pair specific. The earth and water phase with a pillar. The air and fire phase is the cupping bowls that wrap back up around and join the polar dive. So those then get expressed on the top and bottom of the disc as nested ring tori, or wheels within wheels, or serpents biting their tails. It's the same geometry, different ways of describing it in ways that a human would understand it. A serpent biting its tail has a very specific look to it.
Yeah, exactly.
And it would also be a wavefront traveling around that ring. So if you're looking down on the top of this total picture, you've got their counterbalance. So there is a head wave traveling on either side in counterbalance direction.
Okay.
So that's where I see the yin yang 2-dimensional expression of this coming up.
So what about the aether?
The aether? It depends on which level you're talking about.
Okay.
So one of them would be the electromagnetic field, the electromagnetic quantum field that has infinite range, interpenetrates and surrounds everything. But I think what a lot of people describe as the Akashic record, if they're describing that in parallel with the aether, that would be the tier 2 Holy Spirit, the record keeper, the one that is connected to all things in perfect stillness. Yeah, so it's the canvas that all things are painted on, and if you're still enough, you can feel the vibrations in the filaments of that canvas, and it will tell you of other parts of it.
That's what we call the perturbation.
The what?
That's what's described as the perturbation to me.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. I found another amazing attribution to this aspect in Native American mythos, which is grandmother spider. The spider has and this spider has 8 legs. The star tetrahedron has 8 star points. The square star has 8 external points, and it is the web of that all things are upon and vibrating together. And if you're still enough, if you can be that still patient spider, I know it has some negative connotations in other cultures. But if you can be that still spider in the center of it, then you can feel the vibrations throughout the whole web.
Yeah. And you can affect the whole web.
Yes, yes, yes.
And I
And
suppose
so,
that. Go on,
one,
sorry.
oh, good. Just a
No, no,
wrap
go for
up
it.
of this total model with the different fields. So there's 5 mobile fields: the vertical pillar torus, that purple object, and you have your 4 pair-specific ring tori, which are like tubes on the top and the bottom of those hemispheres. So now, look at the human heart. What is it? It is a spiral vertical muscle, and it contains 4 pair-specific chambers that pump blood throughout the whole body. Now look at DNA. What is it? It is a spiral vertical molecule when it's strung out with 4 pair-specific nucleotides that make our whole body. Now look at your hand. You've got your prior vertical thumb, and you've got 4 relatively pair-specific, if you're doing the live long and prosper Spock thing, fingers. Now look at your whole body in the mirror. You've got your, yes, seriously. You've
The
got your
Vitruvian Man, obviously.
So you've got your vertical head and body layout with 4 pair-specific limbs that help us move along the horizontal realm. So
Yeah.
that really sunk it in for me. As like, oh my gosh, yes, this is the larger fractal picture that orders everything inside of itself. It makes DNA, which makes the human heart, which makes the human body, and all different expressions, both pre-human and beyond. But we really see its evidentialness I found within the human body. And it also will relate to the soul and the psyche and our own reflective membranes, but that may be another story for another time.
Yeah. I mean,
I agree with that, with the whole
Go on.
human body thing. Because I was thinking earlier when you were talking about the tunnel to light, I've always equated that with the spine. So I think it
You're
we can
exactly
take
right.
it to all those levels. I love it. It's great.
Yes, no, that's exactly what I found it corresponding to as well, is our spinal column, that our concentration of consciousness and nervous system flow, and then the cupping bowls that come out from that would be our distributed nerves, because we think with our whole body. It's distributed throughout our flesh, our skin, inside and outside. So it's not just the brain thinking. We think as a whole distributed system with a specific flow to it. You're right on the money, Kirsten.
Yeah. So, I mean, have you got any other questions, Kirsten?
I don't at this point, and I'm sorry because my internet has been so poor that I've missed half the conversation. It just keeps stopping, and like right then I didn't even know if we were frozen or if we just weren't talking. So, so I'm sorry. I don't have any other questions at this time, but I'm amazed. I'm amazed. I've only started your book, so I'm excited to dig into it more.
Yes, and definitely draw it out as you're reading, because it really helps just the visual mind to keep track of these things. I know not everybody has a visual mind. I probably should have explained that. I have a holographic mind, in that someone says, picture an apple in your mind. I can picture an apple in an orchard field, and they're transparent to me, and an apple pie, and it's just a very vivid internal imagination. So I'm seeing the motion of form and force inside of me as these things happen. And some have more vivid and less vivid. Some are very word and narrative oriented. But how this unfolded in me was very visual, and just this dance of equal opposite reactions that just bloomed like a flower, is how I describe it.
Perfect. That's amazing.
And that's how I recognized it throughout antiquity. Like, if you look up the circumpunct, it means darn near the same thing throughout all these different traditions. Look up the square star that's found in Islamic and Persian architecture. It's called the breath of the compassionate one, where the out breath is that square star shape, and the in breath is between the square stars, and it's the cross. and it just covers floors and ceilings and walls of their beautiful cathedrals and mosques, and on and on and on. So, oh, and anybody might recognize it. Just the simple cross section of this is an equilateral cross inside a circle with circles in the quadrants, and that's the Hopi medicine wheel. And I found it as the shield of God's blessing in some of the older war shields that were used by, I think, Persian armies going out. So a seal of protection, of harmony. Yeah, it was just when I finally unfolded this and understood the significance behind it, then I just recognized it throughout all these other ways of understanding. Like, oh, so humanity has obviously known this before and has been trying to tell us all about it through all these different modalities.
That's amazing. I love that you've identified, like, it's almost like pattern recognition, isn't it? And you see how it all kind of links up.
Yes, that's exactly what it is. It took a while. I had to go slow and in order, just step by simple step. And as it built upon itself, then yeah, I recognized it in all these other much more complex modalities, and even in the mechanics of the stories. Like in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was God, and the Word was with God, and nothing was made without the Word. The Word became flesh. That whole John 1. It's like what is the description of an infinite absolute one? What is it actually? What is that that is? And that's when I got its quantum signature as well. The word that it is all around itself, forever in all directions. It is at the center of itself everywhere. It is as an equally distributed field throughout. And so those hidden or embedded natures, those become the finite form that actually give order to a universe when it unfolds itself. So that first tier of the Godhead, the Trinity as expressed in the universe, the spherical border condition, the nuclear point, and the field of distribution in between is the only reason why our atoms are stable. So if that's the great quantum instrument that is playing the symphony of creation, then atoms are micronodes. It's the exact same thing, just a little vibrating similarity, fractal similarity of the larger instrument. And so that's why atoms are the way they are with the periphery. And I could get into Octonian math if you want, which is not very far because it's way beyond my pay grade. But I found researchers describing this mathematics of physics using Octonians, and also called the Eightfold Way, which describe subatomic particles and particle physics. Anyway, they found that this mathematics in eightfold math to describe all these fundamental particle transformations and things like that. And that's about as far as I can get into it. But it's like, well, that makes sense if the base field of space-time has eightfold star tetrahedral symmetry. And again, there are people far more educated in that than I am. It's like I find that really cool, and that's about as far as I can get into it. And I've got other parts I need to get into and learn more.
Yeah, it's absolutely blowing my mind, to be honest. Like I said, I'm not an astrophysicist. I'm not a great theologian. I'm a what's the thing of many, a master of none. One of those ones. But I find it absolutely fascinating. I don't know, the eighth sphere kept popping into my head as a bit of a psychic nerd, but I didn't really understand what it meant. Yeah.
The eightfold nature of things?
Yeah.
Yeah. I found that, so there are 8 beatitudes that Jesus gave on the Sermon on the Mount, and looking into symbolism in kind of parallel Christianity, it's that square star is the seal of Melchizedek in the order of the prophets for the Mormons. It's the star of Lakshmi in Hinduism, of the 8 wealth and beatitudes of spirit. And I found eightfold symmetry or octagonal symmetry on Christian baptismal fonts. And so relating 8 to the nature of baptism, which goes right back to the Holy Spirit, where Jesus at the River Jordan was unified with the Holy Spirit, and that was his Christing moment. So
Yeah,
yeah,
I
and
think that we look at
become
that octave, don't we? That everything is an octave, like the
Yeah.
whole symphony. If we're going back to the symphony, like the symphony of the universe is arranged in octaves.
Yes, I'm so glad you mentioned that, because that music theory is another place where I see this geometry expressing itself. So the star tetrahedron has 8 external points, so that would be the 8 whole notes of the octave, and it's
Okay.
made of 12 lines, which would be the semitones.
Okay.
The next tier, that vertical spiral element, would be the spiral of fifths, because it is the 5th primary element around the 4 horizontal circles, which would be the cycle or circle of fourths in music. And yeah, that's about as far as I can get into that one. But you are spot on. It very much is like the geometry of music in distribution.
Which
Welcome back,
makes
Kirsten.
sense. Yeah. Hello, Kirsten again. Are you wanting to call it,
Hello.
Kirsten? Are you having a tough time with the internet?
Yeah, it's kicking me out. It kicked me off there. I don't want to call it, because I think this is a fascinating discussion, and I'm just really enjoying what I can hear of it, which is not everything.
Yours just stopped.
Yeah. I mean, how are you fixed, Isaiah? Would you want to come back on and continue this at another day? Have you got availability for that?
I've got plenty more time right now, and yes, I would love to come back on another day, and we can get more into it. I can, yes, please, and thank you.
Yeah, I'm just thinking if we can get a
That
day
would be
when we've got,
awesome. Yes.
yeah, because we've. I mean, I'm speaking for Kirsten,
Yeah.
but I can see in her face that we've bloody loved this. It's been great.
Yeah.
Yeah, we can get into a little more of the actual predictive geometry that this thing provides for, where it lines up with known cosmology, or at least the measurements that we've made so far. That'd be really interesting to, I think, the science-minded and even the pure materialist. If you're an atheist and you love cosmology and particle physics, there is just tons of stuff, of correlations in this logistic, I call it, or this blueprint of these distributed fields that will line right up with what we found to be true in the universe so far.
That sounds perfect. So what we'll do then is, just because of it's not really fair and poor Kirsten, because I know she's probably got loads of stuff she wants to say, and it's a bit unfair, isn't it? Really, that you're missing it all. So if we could get you back on, that'd be absolutely amazing. Because I've loved this. This has been absolutely fascinating.
Oh, my pleasure. And yes, happy to be of service and available whenever an opening comes up for you both.
Perfect. Well, we'll be in touch, Isaiah. If you just want to stay on, we're going to wrap it up, and then we'll have a quick chat with you at the end, and we'll let you go. Is that all right?
Absolutely.
Do you want to say anything, Kirsten?
All right. Thank you for joining us, everyone.